There's a level of mental and physical strength that can make a person seem unstoppable. Today you'll learn how one man achieved it over 400 years ago, and how you can follow the same path. Have you ever met someone who never breaks? Someone who faces any challenge head-on without hesitation, without compromise, and without negotiating with themselves? While others make excuses for their failures, while most give up at the first obstacle, this person pushes forward. And what do people usually say about them? They're just lucky. It's in their genes. They only got there because of connections. But the truth many ignore is that such strength comes at a steep cost. Few are willing to pay it, yet many still judge those who do. Centuries ago, there was a man in Japan during the Tokugawa era who embodied this relentless strength. This man won over 60 duels. He began at just 13 years old and he never lost. If you follow this channel, you probably know who I'm talking about. Maybe his name is even in the video title, so it's no secret. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. He wasn't the strongest or the fastest physically, but he cultivated something far more powerful. A mind that never hesitated and a body that knew no limits. Before he passed, he recorded everything in his book, Gorin no Sho, the Book of 5 Rings. Within its pages lies a precise guide for transforming your mind and body into something so formidable that people will look at you and wonder, how is that even possible? But there's a catch. Musashi's approach isn't about motivation, it's about elimination. He didn't grow stronger by piling on skills or habits. He became unstoppable by removing everything that held him back. Before I break down exactly how this system works, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. What's the biggest mental or physical obstacle you want to eliminate? Sharing it helps this channel reach more people. I also love reading your comments and interacting with all of you, so thank you for your attention. Now back to the video, Chapter 1, The Awakening. The story I'm sharing today begins with a man named Lucas. He's an engineer, 32 years old, married with 2 kids, just a regular guy with a regular life and everyday problems. But Lucas had a specific struggle. He was weak. Not just physically, but mentally as well. Every morning he promised himself he would work out. He bought a gym membership 3 times and canceled all 3. He started a diet on Monday and abandoned it by Wednesday. He vowed to wake up early, yet hit the snooze button 7 times. The pattern was always the same: strong intentions, weak follow-through. And unfortunately, that wasn't even the worst part. When challenges arose at work, he would freeze. When he needed to have a difficult conversation with his wife, he postponed it. When his children required guidance and discipline, he left it for her to handle. Lucas was living on autopilot, always reacting, never taking control, until the day he experienced a panic attack in front of his boss. During an important meeting, his heart raced, his hands sweated, and the room started to spin. He had no choice but to leave. At the doctor, all tests came back normal. The diagnosis: stress, anxiety, and a lack of mental fitness. But the doctor said something that would change everything. Your body is reacting to threats that aren't real because your mind hasn't been trained to distinguish real danger from mere discomfort. You need to train your nervous system. Determined to change, Lucas went home and began researching how to strengthen the mind and develop true mental resilience. That's when he discovered Miyamoto Musashi. More importantly, he realized that Musashi didn't write a philosophy book. He wrote a manual for warfare, applied to life. Chapter 2. The Principle of Elimination. The first thing Lucas read in the Book of 5 Rings seemed contradictory. Have no preferences. Do not rely on any particular weapon. At first he didn't understand. How could someone become strong without having a preference? How could you master something without relying on it? Then came Musashi's explanation. True strength cannot depend on perfect conditions. If you can only train when you have equipment, you are weak. If you can only meditate when it's completely quiet, you are weak. If you can only focus when you're fully rested, you are weak. True strength is the ability to perform under any condition. Musashi trained with wooden swords, metal swords, 1 sword, 2 swords, or no sword at all. He fought day and night, in sun, rain, cold, or heat. Why? Because the enemy doesn't wait for you to be ready. Lucas realized he was the opposite. He could only be productive at the office. He could only exercise if he'd slept well. He could only eat healthy if his wife prepared the meals. All his discipline depended on external factors. So he applied Musashi's lesson. Eliminate dependencies. He started small, push-ups. No gym, no special schedule, nothing required except his body and the floor. He committed to 20 push-ups every day, anytime, anywhere, under any condition. The first week was easy. By the second week, his muscles ached. In the third week, he traveled for work. In the fourth week, he got the flu. Previously, this is exactly where he would have quit. But this time, he remembered Musashi's principle. Practice must continue regardless of circumstances. So he did push-ups in his hotel room. Got a cold? Do 10 push-ups instead of 20. Feeling low on energy? Do 5, but never 0. Chapter 3. Hi Joshin, the still mind. By day 40, Lucas was doing push-ups automatically, but his mind remained unsettled. Anxiety about work, worry over money, fear of letting his family down. Mentally, he was still fragile, even as his body grew stronger. It was then that he discovered a concept Musashi considered even more important than any fighting technique. Hi Joshin, the everyday mind, the mind that remains steady and unshaken. No matter the circumstances, Musashi wrote, at the moment of battle, your mind should be exactly the same as when you are drinking tea. No excitement, no fear, just presence. Lucas wondered, how is that possible? How do you stay calm when someone is trying to kill you? Musashi's answer was simple, though harsh. Train your mind not to react. Don't try to suppress fear. Become someone who doesn't need to react to it. Lucas began testing this. Whenever anxiety rose, stuck in traffic, in a tense meeting, or during an argument with his wife, he did one thing. He took a deep breath and simply observed the sensation without reacting. It sounds simple, but at first, it was agonizing. His body wanted to scream, argue, or run, yet he just watched. My heart is racing. My hands are sweating. My jaw is tight. Observation only. No judgment, no reaction. The first time it truly worked was during a meeting when his boss started yelling at him in front of everyone. The old pattern had been freezing, sweating, and stuttering. This time Lucas felt the fear rise, acknowledged it, and kept speaking normally. His voice didn't waver. His hands stayed dry. He responded clearly. His boss was taken aback. The team was stunned. But Lucas knew exactly what had happened. He had accessed Hi Joshin for the first time. The mind that doesn't move. A Stanford neuroscientist who has studied emotional regulation for 18 years explains, when you practice non-reactive observation of difficult emotions, you literally rewire your amygdala. Over time, the activation threshold rises. What once triggered panic now triggers only recognition. Chapter 4. Seni Noi, the Way of the Warrior. But Musashi understood that a calm mind without a capable body is an illusion. You can have perfect emotional control, but if your body can't support it, you will fail. He wrote, train hard with wooden swords to strengthen the body. When the body is weak, the mind wavers. When the body is strong, the mind remains steady. Lucas had been doing push-ups for 60 days. He had grown stronger, but he hadn't yet tested his limits under extreme conditions. Musashi didn't train in comfort. He pushed to the limit and then beyond. Inspired by this, Lucas decided to attempt something that seemed almost insane. 100 push-ups a day for 30 days. No matter how long it took, no matter how many breaks he needed, he would complete all 100 every single day. Day 1 took 45 minutes. By day 5, he could barely lift his arms. Day 10, his wife warned him he was overdoing it. Day 15, he managed 100 push-ups in 20 minutes. By day 30, he completed all 100 in 12 minutes without stopping. But the transformation wasn't only physical, it was mental. When you prove to yourself that you can achieve something that once seemed impossible, you stop hesitating. You stop negotiating with difficulty. You just do it. Musashi called this Seni Noi, the Way of the Warrior. It's not about talent. It's about eliminating the belief that there's anything you cannot do if you train with enough discipline and persistence. Chapter 5. Zanshin. Permanent consciousness. Lucas was now physically stronger and mentally calmer. But Musashi had a third principle that separated ordinary warriors from legends. Zanshin. Literally translated, it means the mind that remains. It doesn't mean staying tense or constantly on edge. It means being fully present, aware, and never disconnected. Musashi wrote about warriors who won a duel but let their guard down and were attacked while celebrating. He explained, The battle does not end when the enemy falls. It ends when you are truly safe. Zanshin is the awareness that does not relax until everything is completely resolved. Lucas realized he had been living the opposite way. He would finish a project and immediately relax completely. He'd reach a goal and stop training. He'd solve one problem and ignore the next warning signs. He began practicing Zanshin in daily life. After finishing his push-ups, instead of collapsing on the floor, he would stand for 30 seconds, breathing and staying mindful. After a challenging meeting, instead of immediately checking his phone, he would sit for a minute reflecting on what had occurred. It may seem small, but it changes everything. When you stay aware after an action, you fully integrate the lesson. When you immediately tune out, the learning is lost. Within 90 days, Lucas had undergone a complete transformation. People at work noticed. You seem different, more present. Nothing seems to shake you. His wife was even more direct. What happened to you? You're like a different person. And she was right. He was different. Chapter 6. Fosun, the mind that does not move. The real test came on day 105. Lucas was called into an emergency meeting. The company was making cuts and he was about to be fired. The old pattern would have triggered panic, heart racing, mind spiraling, catastrophic scenarios taking over. But this time was different. He felt the initial shock, acknowledged the sensation, and then nothing. His mind stayed calm. His body didn't go into fight or flight mode. He remained fully present with the information. I see, what's the schedule? His boss was taken aback by his calm. You have 30 days. Sorry, Lucas. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Lucas left the room, returned to his desk, and continued working. His colleagues, who had also been laid off, were in panic, calling home crying, paralyzed. Lucas remained calm. Not because he didn't care, but because he had developed what Musashi called Fosun, the still mind, the mind unshaken by external circumstances. Musashi wrote, "The tree is quiet not because the wind is absent, but because its roots are deep." Lucas's roots had grown deep. 5 days of disciplined training, 105 days of observing emotions without reacting, 105 days of continuous awareness. When the storm arrived, he didn't break, because he had already been tested 1,000 times before. Over the next 30 days, while everyone else was panicking, Lucas took action. He updated his resume, activated his network, and went on interviews. By the 23rd day, he had 3 job offers. He chose the best one, leaving his old company with a 40% higher salary. His colleagues, who had panicked, were still unemployed 3 months later. A sports psychologist with 15 years of experience, working with Olympic athletes, explains that the difference between those who perform under pressure and those who crumble isn't talent. It's how much time they spent deliberately exposing themselves to discomfort. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's built, repetition by repetition. Chapter 7. Hiho. The strategy of the Void Musashi had one final principle, difficult to understand but incredibly powerful to apply. Hiho. The strategy of emptiness. Musashi wrote, "In combat, do not aim to win, aim not to lose." It sounds similar, but the difference is crucial. When you fight to win, you create openings. You push, you expose yourself, you take unnecessary risks. When you fight not to lose, you remain intact, without gaps, without weakness. Lucas applied this mindset to his new job. Instead of trying to impress everyone or prove his value right away, he focused on avoiding mistakes. He arrived on time, delivered on his promises, avoided drama, and never made commitments he couldn't keep. 3 months later, he was promoted. His boss said, "You may not be the brightest on the team, but you are the most reliable, and reliability beats brilliance." That's Hiho. You don't have to be the best. You just can't have weaknesses. Musashi never lost a duel, not because he was stronger or faster, but because he remained unshakable and without gaps. He never lost because he never gave an opening. He studied his opponent, waited for a mistake, and acted with precision. Absolute efficiency, zero waste. Lucas began applying this principle to every area of his life. He didn't try to eat perfectly. He simply never ate junk food during his training. He didn't aim to break records. He simply never skipped a day in nurturing his relationships. He didn't try to be the perfect husband. He simply never broke his word. No weaknesses, No loopholes. No excuses. Chapter 8. Suti. Letting go of the self 6 months into his journey, Lucas was unrecognizable. Physically stronger, mentally resilient, emotionally stable. Yet one final barrier remained. He wasn't afraid of external challenges, but of something internal. The fear that if he stopped for even a day, everything would collapse. The fear that all his strength might be fragile, temporary. That's when he encountered Musashi's ultimate concept, sutmi, abandoning the self. Musashi wrote his final words shortly before his death. I regret nothing. I fear nothing. I desire nothing. How does one reach this level? How do you completely let go of fear? Musashi's answer was radical. Stop identifying with the outcome. You are not your successes. You are not your failures. You are simply the ongoing practice. Lucas tested this in an extreme way. He stopped counting training days. He stopped celebrating milestones. He stopped posting progress on social media. He removed all external validation. Yet the training continued. The meditation continued. The discipline continued. But now it was without ego, without the need for recognition, and without fear of losing what he had built. Because he finally understood. You can't lose what you are. You can only lose what you have. If your strength depends on maintaining a streak, you will fear breaking it. If your strength is who you've become, nothing can take that away. And then something unexpected happened. People started avoiding Lucas, not because he was arrogant or aggressive, but because his presence had become unsettling. When you eliminate fear, hesitation, and the need for validation, you become a mirror. People see in you everything they are not, and that can be uncomfortable. His coworkers stopped complaining around him. His friends stopped joking about gyms and diets. Even his family began saying, "You're getting too serious." Their discomfort wasn't about him. It was the reflection of what they had convinced themselves was impossible. Chapter 9. The Complete Transformation. Year after starting, Lucas was no longer the same person, not because his personality had changed, but because he had removed everything non-essential. He was no longer someone who tried to be disciplined. He had become someone who couldn't be undisciplined. Practice wasn't something he did. It was who he was. Musashi called this Kenzenichi. The sword and Zen are one. There is no separation between who you are and what you practice. You don't meditate, you are meditation. You don't train, you are training. People would ask, how do you have so much discipline? The answer was simple. I have no discipline. I've eliminated the parts of me that wanted to give up. This is what Musashi taught. Mental and physical strength isn't about adding more. It's about removing everything that blocks your essential nature. You don't need motivation to breathe. You don't need to force your heartbeat. Why? Because these things are fundamental to who you are. When training, discipline, and practice become as natural and integrated as breathing, you reach a level that feels almost unreal. The level where people look at you and think, that's not human. And they're right, not human in the sense of ordinary humans, but human in the sense of fully realized potential. Miyamoto Musashi died at 62, alone in a cave, writing. He had no money, no title, no followers, but he had something no one could take away, complete mastery over himself. His final words were simple. I regret nothing. How many people can say that? How many reach the end of life knowing they truly lived at the limit of their capabilities? How many have eliminated fear, hesitation, and weakness? The question isn't how Musashi did it. The question is, why aren't you doing it? You have access to the same knowledge, the same number of hours in a day, the same human body with the same potential. The difference isn't ability, it's choice. It's the willingness to do what's necessary. The willingness to remove dependencies. The willingness to practice until practice becomes who you are. The willingness to let go of everything that isn't essential. This extreme level of mental and physical strength isn't for everyone. Not because it's impossible, but because it's uncomfortable. Most people choose comfort over capability. But you're not the majority. If you've watched this far, you've already proven that. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge? If you found this video valuable, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and leave a like. Share in the comments. What's the first habit you'll eliminate? What's the first weakness you'll transform? Remember, the only strength worth having is the strength that makes others take notice. If you've made it this far, thank you for your attention. I'll see you in the next video.